Hey, geometry class. Today I'm going to go over the combinatorics and probability that is going to be part of your quiz. For today, there's nothing to really turn in until tomorrow 12 p.m. as you have done before, but it will be a quiz. So you won't get any new assignments to do for today, but it needs to be something that's due by tomorrow, if that makes sense. It's going to be a quiz for today. Now I know that I usually do a review beforehand. Well, this video is pretty much the review for that. So make sure that I'm going to put it on the instructions to watch the video, and then that should help you to do your quiz for tomorrow. First, you will see questions like these where you're supposed to be determining whether they are a permutation or a combination. I mean, we have been doing this a lot over the past couple of days, and this is really what it comes down to. Like, are you able to distinguish between whether they're permutation or combination or not? Then find the possibilities. After you determine which one that's going to be, that should be really not that much of a big problem. All right, so a student chooses a random 4 books from a reading list of 11 books. So random 4 books. Does the order matter or not? That is the biggest question you want to ask. Okay? And I told you for permutation, it will be a good rule for you to remember those 3 different scenarios that's going to happen. Arranging in a line, positions like secretary, like president, whatever, and then lock, like lock combinations. Those would most likely be permutations unless specified to, put something else. But regardless, like most of the cases, it will fall into this category. If it's not those things, your best bet would be that it's combinations. And this is a combination problem. And all you're gonna do is 11 choose 4, and then so you're gonna do 11 combination 4, and then you're gonna get 330 ways. At the end of the season, 10 soccer teams are ranked. Does it matter how it's ranked? Yes. If you're ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say, and then all the way down to 10th place, whoever becomes first matters if I was to rearrange them and say that the first place is now team B. It certainly matters here. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to say that this is a permutation question, and then it's 10p10 because we want to arrange 10 teams into 10 different spots. So in other words, we can just do 10 factorial here. Then you will get 3628800 or 3.6 million different ways. 24. Committee of 5 people is being selected from a group of 9 to choose food for a sports banquet. So committee of 5 people. A good rule to remember is that whenever you have a committee of something, committee that it starts with C, it's a combination question. Most certainly. So it's a 5 people out of 9, so it's 9C5. So once I type that into the calculator, I should get 126 different ways. So those would be the answers. Take a look at these 3 questions, pause the video, and try it on your own, and then we'll discuss it afterwards. Okay, 25. Hugo displaces 8 model planes in a single row. So whenever we're arranging in a line, like I said, like plane A, plane B, plane C, they're in a one singular row. Auditorium seats, single file line, those are all permutation questions. Like I said up here, arrange them in a line. So I'm going to have 8p8, which would be 8 factorial, 40,320 different ways. President, secretary, treasurer, choosing 12. Again, that's a permutation. The positions are specified. So 12p, and then that's 3 positions. So it's 3. So I'm going to do 12 and PR3, and I get 1,320 different ways. 27, a food truck has a lunch special on tacos. Customer chooses a shell, 3 topping, and 2 sides for 1 price. Okay, so we are going to figure out, so when we're talking about food arrangements, right? Does the order matter in which how they're all put together? Well, if you want to have a hard taco with ground beef and fountain drink, does it matter if I have fountain drink first, ground beef second, and then hard? So you get the idea. This is certainly a combination question. So customer chooses a shell, 3 toppings, and sides. So for shell, it doesn't matter. So you have 3 options to choose from, and then you're choosing one of them. For toppings, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 choices, and you're picking 3 because it says 3 toppings. And then it says 2 sides, well, it's fountain drink, rice, beans, and fruit. So it's 4 choices, and you're picking 2 of them. It doesn't matter which order you're choosing. Like for example, if you're choosing ground beef, steak, and cheese, ground beef, steak, and cheese, it doesn't matter if you choose cheese, steak, and then ground beef. Like they are all the same thing. Like they all give you the same combination. So this would end up being 3. This will end up being 35. And this will end up being 2. So what do we do with these 3 numbers at the end is that you don't add them, you multiply them because that's how many ways in which this could happen. So 3 times 35 times 6 total gives you 630 ways in which you can have this specific way of arranging the tacos. Okay? Hopefully a question like this, I know it's a little bit tricky, but have this example by your side to really help you through this. Next one would be using the combinatorics to find out the probability. And this is the last part for today. Number 28 says, there are 4 comedians and 5 musicians performing in a variety show. The order in which the performers are chosen is random. So 4 comedians and 5 musicians, so that you have those 2 things specified. What is the probability that the first 3 performers are comedians? So if we're talking about finding 3 performers that are comedians, just the first way in which we can do so, we have 4 comedians out of 9, because it's 4 plus 9, which is 9 people in total, right? We're talking about 3 performers. So it's 4 out of 9 for the first person, 3 out of 8 for the second person, and 2 out of 7 for the third person. Because you're choosing one out, the person is not replaced. When you multiply these things combined together, you get 24 over 504. This is a probability of one specific way in which this could be arranged. So let's say that person A, comedian B, and comedian C was arranged. Okay? But this doesn't give you the entire picture. It's not enough. Why? Because, well, there could be multiple ways in which this could be arranged. A, B, C is certainly one way, but what about C? Actually, well, the order does not matter. So it's like say A, B, and then D, for example. Because there are 4 comedians to choose from, right? So let's call them A, B, C, and D. I chose a group of 3. Okay? Out of those comedians. Well, out of those total performers, right? Well, if we have A, B, and C, we could also have A, B, and D. We could also have A, C, and D. Like, how many different ways in which I could arrange that? That's the question. So what do? This is simply a combination question you need to understand, because the order of these comedians doesn't matter. The order of comedian A first, comedian B first, it doesn't matter. But you have 4 comedians to choose from, and I want to group how many of them into a 3. So 4 combination 3 gives me 4 different ways in which this could happen. A, B, C, A, B, D, A, C, D, and I believe the last one here would be A, C, the A should not be here, so B, C, and D. Those are the only 4 ways in which this could happen, because it doesn't matter the order specification as long as I group them in a 3. So what do we do with this 4 and the probability of one of them? Well, the probability of each of them is 24 over 504. 24 over 504. Every single one of them is an equal chance of happening. Okay, so that means that I'm going to take this probability and I'm going to multiply with 4. So 24 times 4 is 96. So 24 over 504 times 4 over 1 gives you 96 over 504. If you were to reduce that, it gives you 4 over 21. Let me just write it a little bit clearer. This will be how to find a probability dealing with combinatorics. So first things first, you need to find out the specific probability. We've done that 2 weeks ago. Then you just have to find out the combinations in which this certain things could happen. You're grouping four comedians into 3 spots. What about these musicians? Well, I don't really care about that because we're talking about 3 performers or comedians. We want to group the comedians into a plate, like into 3 spots. So that's exactly what we're going to do, and find the probability of one of them happening, and find out how many ways in which that could happen, which is 4 ways, and just multiply them. Let's try B. What is the probability that the first 2 performers are comedian followed by a musician? Okay, so this means the first 2 performers are comedians. So let's say I draw 3 blanks again. The 2 comedians are being 2 performers being a comedian is 4 out of 9, 3 out of 8, followed by musicians. Well, that's 5 out of 7, right? The denominator number should not change as before. It was 9, 8, and 7 here as well. You're subtracting 1 each time, and then when you find the probability of this one, it will be 60 out of 504. Okay, I found the probability of one of them happening. But I'm still not done yet because, okay, now what I need to do is I need to find out how many different ways in which this could happen. The first 2 has to be comedian. The last one has to be a musician. Okay? So, how many different ways can you place these 4 comedians into 2 different spots? And how many different ways can you put 5 musicians into 1 spot? Because that's only 1 spot available for musician. That's 2 spots available for comedians. So when you do this, and you have to multiply them, of course, 4 combination of 2, that gives you 6. 5 combination of 1, that gives you 5. Well, that's 30 different ways in which you could arrange that. So in each 30 ways has a equal chance of happening, which is 60 over 504. So 30 times 60 divided by 504. Well, that's the probability of that happening is going to be actually be above 1. So I think that something I did not do right here. Well, that's 6. That's 5. What are the probability? The first 2 performers are a comedian followed by a musician. 15. That's 4. That's 504. 30. What is the okay? For the part B, for the video, let me just figure this out on my own first. But then for your quizzes, it will not be as bad as this one. If anything, when we have the probability for permutation and combinations, what I need you to understand is you need to find the probability of one of them happening like this one. And you just simply have to multiply by how many ways in which this could happen. Okay? For this particular reason, you get 1800 out of 504, but that can't be possible because a probability cannot be greater than 1. That can't happen, okay? Because that's 100%. What is the probability that the first 2 performers are a comedian followed by a musician? Okay, I believe that then you have to separate this into 2 separate probability here. So we cannot multiply those things combined here. So let me erase all this. Okay, 4C2 gives me 6. There are 6 ways in which this could happen. So 4 times 3 over 9 times 8 gives you 12 over 72. And I need to multiply that by 6, which gives you 7. Okay, well, that's not what's happening. Okay, first, let me skip part B, and I'm going to move on. For your quiz today, I want to give you several questions dealing with probability, dealing with combinatorics, and I will make sure that it's doable. That if you have any questions, please let me know. You will see mostly something like this, where students will be chosen random for school awards. There are 6 athletes and 8 non-athletes, just like the one we have seen before, 4 comedians and 5 musicians. And then you'll be able to find out what is the probability that both prizes are awarded to athletes or non-athletes. This is your quiz question. This is very similar to part A, in which I don't think it's going to create so much of a big hassle because 3 performers are all comedians or all musicians. It should be doable. Okay, and then these questions I'm going to skip. And then you will see questions like these where Jennifer will invite 3 of her 10 friends. Is it permutation or combinations? You should be able to do so. Must decide how she and her 3 friends will sit at the concert. Sitting in a line, sitting in a row. You should know what that is about. Is it a permutation or combination? Okay. Aside from these particular questions, you won't see anything that too much of a different. finish the quiz by tomorrow 12 p.m. and that's going to be it for today and tomorrow. Thank you and have a good weekend.